Imagine starting your day not with a pill, not with a struggle, but with a simple spoonful of something warm, golden, and ancient. Just honey and garlic, that's it. Two ingredients that have sat on your kitchen shelf for years. Too familiar to feel powerful. And yet, when combined in the right way, at the right time, they carry the force of something deeper, something that whispers to the body, "You are not forgotten. You are still healing." It sounds almost too simple, doesn't it? A spoonful each morning, and 3 weeks later, your energy shifts. The tightness in your chest softens, your breath deepens. The pressure in your veins, once so unpredictable, begins to find its rhythm again. You feel lighter, stronger, calmer, and above all, awake. Not just in mind, but in body. This isn't a fantasy. It's a forgotten wisdom. Garlic and honey may not look like medicine, but for centuries they've been just that. From ancient Egypt to traditional Chinese healing, these two ingredients have been used as protectors of the heart, defenders of the mind, and quiet warriors inside the body. And now, in your 70s, 80s, or beyond, they may be exactly what your body has been quietly waiting for. Let's begin with the heart. Your engine, your silent companion. It beats without thanks, tirelessly, pushing life through your veins every moment of the day. But as time passes, that engine begins to slow. The vessels narrow, the pressure rises, and suddenly simple tasks, climbing stairs, walking to the store, even laughing too hard, leave you breathless. Garlic, when crushed fresh, releases a compound called allicin. This isn't just a substance, it's an agent of change. Allicin works immediately to relax blood vessels, improve circulation, and reduce the burden placed on your heart. For those living with high blood pressure or early heart disease, it's like opening the windows in a room that's been closed too long. At the same time, garlic helps lower bad cholesterol, the kind that clings to your arteries and silently narrows the passageways where blood flows. This isn't guesswork. It's backed by studies, and more importantly, by centuries of lived experience. Garlic acts like a gentle sweeper of your inner pathways. It keeps what should move, moving. And then comes honey. Not just for sweetness, but for restoration. Raw honey contains antioxidants that protect your cells from damage. It helps raise the level of good cholesterol, the kind that guards your heart and resists inflammation. It doesn't spike your blood sugar, doesn't demand anything of your digestion. It simply nourishes. When taken together, especially in the quiet of the morning before any other food, the effect is amplified. The stomach, still empty, absorbs more efficiently. The nutrients reach your bloodstream faster. The protective effects begin within minutes. It's not magic, it's nature. And nature, when invited into your routine with respect, never rushes, never demands. It simply shows up, again and again, until your body remembers how to feel strong. If this beginning stirred something in you, don't ignore that quiet pull. Subscribe now, not for the sake of a number, but as a signal to yourself, a small act of care, a promise that you're willing to learn again how to nourish yourself. Sometimes a transformation begins not with a leap, but with a choice as small as a spoon. This ritual doesn't replace your medication. It doesn't promise miracles, but it reminds your body that you are still listening. And when the body feels heard, it begins to speak more clearly. There's a moment, often unnoticed, that happens when you wake up. A moment before thought, before movement. A moment when your body quietly takes inventory. How is my breath today? How stiff are my joints? How heavy is my chest? For many elders, that first breath of the day already carries weight. A slow exhale that feels slightly tighter than yesterday. A subtle signal that something inside is working harder than it should. And more often than not, the culprit is inflammation. Inflammation isn't always visible. It doesn't always show up as swelling or pain. Sometimes it hides in the blood vessels, in the lining of the lungs, in the slow, silent erosion of mobility and strength. It's the underlying thread in so many of the challenges we call just aging. Fatigue, stiffness, Poor sleep, cloudy thoughts, slow digestion. But here's the truth. Inflammation is not a punishment of time. It's a response, and it can be softened. Garlic, when raw and properly activated by crushing or chopping, is one of nature's most powerful anti-inflammatory agents. It acts not like a hammer, but like a soft broom, gently calming overactive immune responses, cleaning up toxic residues left by processed foods, pollution, or medications. Its sulfur compounds reduce the production of substances in the body that drive chronic inflammation, including the very cytokines that are often elevated in conditions like arthritis, asthma, or even heart failure. And honey? It doesn't just soothe your throat or sweeten your tea. It also calms the inflammation in your gut, a place that plays a surprisingly large role in your overall health. A balanced, non-irritated digestive system means less inflammation throughout the body. And raw honey, filled with enzymes, antioxidants, and antibacterial properties, acts like a healer, coating the stomach lining, supporting gut flora, and allowing nutrients to be absorbed without stress. Taken together, garlic and honey don't just reduce symptoms. They help the body remember its natural state: calm, fluid, balanced. And this is especially powerful in the morning. Why? Because inflammation tends to rise overnight. As the body rests and resets, inflammatory markers can increase, especially in older adults. That morning stiffness, that ache in the hips, that burning in the knees. Often, it's not injury, it's inflammation. But here's the beauty. When you introduce this natural blend first thing in the morning, before any meal, before any other substance, your body receives it fully. The garlic begins to act immediately. The honey coats and carries it. Together they enter your bloodstream like a quiet river, bringing relief where your body needs it most. I remember the story of a woman, 82 years old, who began this practice after reading about it in a forgotten health column. She didn't expect much. She was skeptical. But after just 2 weeks, she noticed her hands, once swollen and stiff, could grip her cup of tea again without pain. Her knees didn't burn in the middle of the night. Her breathing came easier in the morning. It wasn't dramatic. It was subtle, but it was real. That's the kind of healing this is. Not loud, not instant, but honest and earned. You don't need large quantities. 1 clove of garlic, finely crushed, mixed with a teaspoon of raw honey. Let it sit for 5 to 10 minutes. This activates the allicin. Then take it slowly, mindfully. Let it be your morning ritual. A moment not just of nutrition, but of intention. Because healing is not just about what you take, it's about how you take it. It's about giving your body the signal. I'm with you. I haven't given up. Let's try again today. There's a quiet fear that lives in many older hearts. It doesn't always show up in words or worries. It shows up in hesitation, in the way you hold the railing a little tighter, in how you pause before standing, in the breath you take before stepping out into the day. It's the fear of falling, the fear of weakening, the fear that the body you've lived in for so many decades might no longer obey as it once did. This fear isn't irrational. It comes from experience. A misstep in the kitchen, a stumble in the hallway, a moment of dizziness that almost led to disaster. And with every close call, your confidence diminishes and your world gets smaller. You begin to say no to invitations, to walks, to movement, not because you want to, but because you no longer feel safe. But here's something you may not have heard. Your stability, your balance, and your coordination are not only physical, they are biochemical. And garlic with honey can quietly influence that inner chemistry. Let's begin with the circulatory system. Good balance depends on steady blood flow to the brain. When blood pressure spikes or dips too quickly, dizziness follows. Garlic helps regulate these fluctuations by improving the elasticity of blood vessels and supporting consistent blood pressure. It doesn't push too high or pull too low. It stabilizes. Now consider the nervous system. Aging nerves can become less responsive, slowing the communication between your brain and your muscles. Garlic's natural sulfur compounds protect nerve tissues from oxidative damage and improve neurovascular function, the delivery of oxygen and nutrients to those fragile connections. This means quicker reflexes, clearer signals, and fewer moments of disorientation. And the honey? Honey provides natural glucose, the brain's preferred fuel. Unlike processed sugars that crash and burn, honey offers a steady release of energy, just enough to support mental alertness, especially in the early hours of the day when the body is adjusting from sleep. That mental clarity translates to better posture, better reaction time, and more trust in your steps. There's also something deeper at play. When you begin your day with a conscious health ritual, you move through your morning differently. You become present. You notice your breath. You sense your legs. You don't rush. And that awareness, that reconnection to your body, builds the very confidence that protects you from the fear of falling. I once spoke with a man in his late 70s who had stopped walking outside after 2 minor falls. His world had shrunk to his living room and bedroom. Then, at his daughter's urging, he began a morning ritual: garlic, honey, a short breathing exercise, and a few steps by the window. Within weeks, his hands stopped trembling when reaching for support. His gait became steadier. And one day, he stepped outside again, just for a few minutes. That step wasn't just physical. It was emotional, spiritual. It was a return. You see, the body listens. And when you give it what it needs, not just through medicine, but through nourishment, it responds, sometimes faster than you expect. So tomorrow morning, take your spoonful of garlic and honey. But don't rush away. Sit for a moment. Breathe deeply. Feel your feet touch the floor. Tell your body, we're safe, we're strong, we're here. And when you rise, let it be with intention, with grace. Because balance isn't just about bones and muscles. It's about inner harmony. And that harmony begins with how you treat yourself the moment you wake up. There's something sacred about the first meal of the day. It sets the rhythm. It tells your body, we are beginning again. But for many elders, breakfast has become a mechanical act, or worse, a forgotten one. Some skip it entirely, believing they're not hungry. Others reach for bread and coffee alone, simply to fill a moment, not to nourish. But what if I told you that what you eat, and how you eat it, within the first hour of waking up could transform your metabolism, digestion, and even the way your body processes pain? This is where garlic and honey meet the digestive system, not as intruders, but as allies. Let's begin with the stomach. After hours of fasting through the night, your digestive tract is empty but alert. It's waiting to receive the first message of the day. And when that message is a spoonful of fresh garlic and raw honey, the response is immediate. Garlic stimulates the production of gastric juices, waking up the stomach's acid levels and preparing it to digest food more efficiently. This is especially important for elders, as natural acid production tends to decline with age, leading to bloating, poor nutrient absorption, and discomfort after meals. But there's more. Garlic also activates liver enzymes, helping your body eliminate toxins that may have built up overnight. It supports bile production, which breaks down fats, a crucial task, especially when metabolism has slowed or gallbladder function is reduced. And all of this happens before you've taken a bite of anything else. Now let's talk about honey. In its raw form, honey contains enzymes that assist in breaking down carbohydrates, making digestion smoother and gentler. It also acts as a prebiotic, feeding the beneficial bacteria in your gut that are responsible for immune strength, mood regulation, and inflammation control. These good bacteria, when properly nourished, help you absorb more nutrients from everything else you eat that day. Together, garlic and honey act like a spark that lights the digestive fire. Gently, without strain, without confusion. And digestion is not just about the stomach. It's about your whole experience of living. When digestion is poor, your energy suffers. You feel heavy after meals, sleepy during the day, foggy in thought. But when digestion flows well, everything else follows. Your mood, your clarity, your willingness to move, even your sleep at night. I remember an elderly woman who used to dread breakfast. She said food just sat in her belly. But once she introduced this garlic and honey ritual, something shifted. She no longer needed naps right after eating. Her appetite became more stable. And, as she said with a laugh, my belly stopped arguing with me. Of course, not everyone enjoys the taste of garlic first thing in the morning. But here's a gentle approach. Crush 1 clove of garlic. Let it sit for 10 minutes. Then mix it with a teaspoon of raw honey. The honey softens the flavor. The resting time activates the garlic's healing compounds. You can take it slowly, with water after if needed. What matters isn't the flavor, it's the consistency. And after this small ritual, then you can enjoy your breakfast, whatever it may be, fruit, oats, eggs. Your digestive system will be ready to receive it. Not bracing itself, not struggling, just open and responsive. This isn't a cure. It's a conversation with your own body. A way of saying, I'm paying attention again. And that message, simple, kind, consistent, is what makes all the difference in the weeks to come. There's a moment, often in the quiet of the afternoon, when the body feels tired in a way that sleep can't fix. Your eyelids grow heavy. Your thoughts begin to scatter. The simplest task, like remembering where you placed your keys or why you entered a room, feels suddenly distant. For many in their 70s and beyond, this mental fog has become a familiar visitor, uninvited, unexplainable, but persistent. And while it's often dismissed as just aging, it may actually be something your body is quietly asking for. Better circulation and clearer fuel for the brain. This is where the garlic and honey ritual reaches beyond the stomach, beyond the heart, and touches the very center of who you are, your mind. Let's start with blood flow. The brain relies on a consistent supply of oxygen-rich blood to function well. When circulation is compromised, even slightly, the first signs appear in cognition, slower recall, difficulty focusing, forgetfulness. Garlic, as we've seen, supports vascular health by reducing arterial stiffness and improving the flow of blood. But when this improved flow reaches the brain, the effects can feel like fog lifting. You begin to process thoughts faster. You recall names more easily. Your attention becomes more stable. You feel more present. Honey contributes in a different yet equally vital way. It provides a gentle, natural source of glucose, the primary energy source for the brain. Unlike processed sugars, which spike and crash, honey releases energy gradually, sustaining mental clarity throughout the morning. This stable fuel helps avoid the common dips that lead to irritability, low motivation, and confusion. There's another powerful layer to this. Garlic contains compounds that protect the brain from oxidative stress, one of the primary contributors to age-related cognitive decline. These compounds act as antioxidants, neutralizing free radicals that damage brain cells over time. Think of it as internal housekeeping for your neurons, keeping the environment clean so your thoughts can move freely. And while science explains the mechanism, the experience itself is more emotional than chemical. It's the joy of finding a word on the tip of your tongue, the peace of finishing a sentence without losing your train of thought, the comfort of trusting your own memory again. These are the victories that matter, not because they're dramatic, but because they restore your dignity. I recall an elderly gentleman, once a professor, who told me he had stopped reading books because he couldn't concentrate for more than a page. After 3 weeks of adding garlic and honey to his mornings, something shifted. I still forget, he said, but I finished the chapter, and that makes me feel like myself again. These small gains matter. They add up, because cognition is not about intelligence. It's about connection, to your own life, to the people you love, to the thoughts that define your personality, your humor, your sense of purpose. To support your brain is to say, I want to keep being me. So tomorrow morning, when you prepare your small dose of garlic and honey, know that it's not just for your blood or your stomach. It's for your clarity, for the conversations you'll have, for the decisions you'll make, for the peace of knowing that your mind still has strength and that you are doing your part to protect it. There are sounds that begin to echo more loudly with age, the ticking of a clock, the creak of a joint, the silence of a slowed heartbeat. And sometimes, in the stillness of the evening or the early morning, Another sound rises within, the subtle, steady pounding of pressure in the head or chest. For many older adults, this has a name they've grown used to hearing, but never quite learned to live with: high blood pressure. Hypertension has been called the silent killer for a reason. It often causes no immediate symptoms, yet its effects accumulate silently, damaging blood vessels, increasing the risk of heart attack, stroke, kidney failure, and cognitive decline. And yet, what most people don't realize is that one of the most effective ways to manage blood pressure doesn't come in a bottle, but in a spoon. Let's talk about garlic again, not just as a culinary spice or a folk remedy, but as a vascular healer. The active compound in garlic, allicin, has been shown in countless studies to have a vasodilatory effect. That means it relaxes and widens the blood vessels, making it easier for blood to flow through them. This reduces the resistance the heart has to work against, and in turn, lowers blood pressure. Unlike synthetic medications that force the heart or kidneys to adjust, garlic works with the body's natural rhythm, restoring flexibility to blood vessels that have become rigid with time. But there's more. Garlic supports nitric oxide production, a molecule that helps regulate blood vessel tone. As we age, our nitric oxide levels decline, contributing to tighter vessels and more pressure in the arteries. By boosting this molecule naturally, garlic gives your cardiovascular system the gentle push it needs to restore balance. And honey? Honey plays a more subtle role, but no less important. It contains antioxidants that reduce oxidative stress on the heart and blood vessels. This is vital because oxidative stress is one of the underlying causes of endothelial dysfunction, the weakening of the vessel walls that leads to elevated pressure. Honey also has mild calming properties, helping to reduce the kind of emotional stress that contributes to blood pressure spikes throughout the day. Together, these two ingredients create a synergy that works in both physical and emotional dimensions. Garlic lowers the biological load on the heart, while honey soothes the nervous system. It's like asking your body to breathe again after holding its breath for too long. I've known elders who struggled for years with fluctuating readings, waking up to 160 over 90, dropping midday, then spiking at night. One woman, after adding garlic and honey to her morning for just 3 weeks, reported the first consistent readings she'd had in years. Lower, steadier, and more predictable. Her doctor was surprised. She wasn't. She had begun listening to her body again. Of course, garlic and honey are not a substitute for medication when needed. But they are a foundation, a way to support your body in doing what it was always meant to do: regulate itself with wisdom. To prepare the blend specifically for this purpose, make sure your garlic is freshly crushed. This ensures maximum allicin availability. Let it rest for 10 minutes before mixing with raw honey. Take it first thing in the morning, ideally before any meal or pill. This gives your system the clean slate it needs to fully receive the benefits. And after you've taken it, sit quietly for a moment. Place your hand over your heart. Feel its rhythm. Know that with each beat, you are doing something beautiful, not just lowering numbers, but honoring life. Because pressure on the heart is not just about arteries. It's about everything you've lived, everything you still carry, and everything you still hope for. There are mornings when the body rises but the spirit stays in bed. You open your eyes, but don't feel awake. You move, but without conviction. You eat, but without hunger. It's not illness exactly. It's not sadness either. It's something quieter, harder to name, a heaviness that settles in the soul when vitality begins to fade. For many elders, this feeling creeps in slowly. You stop laughing as often. You speak less. You withdraw, little by little, until even the mirror begins to reflect someone dimmer than you remember. But what if I told you that one of the keys to lifting that invisible weight lies not in therapy, nor in long walks or deep talks, but in a morning act so small, so humble, that most would overlook it? Garlic and honey. Again, yes, because their power extends beyond the heart, beyond the brain, beyond the body. It touches your mood, your emotional energy, your life force. Let's begin with the nervous system. the quiet highway of communication between your body and your emotions. Garlic contains selenium and vitamin B6, both of which are involved in the production of serotonin, the feel-good neurotransmitter. Serotonin affects everything from sleep to appetite to mood. When levels are low, even a sunny day can feel grey. But when serotonin is supported, your world begins to color itself in again, slowly, subtly, but certainly. And what about honey? Nature's sweet balm. Raw honey contains natural sugars that offer a gentle energy boost without the crash of processed sweets. It also supports the gut-brain axis, a two-way communication system between your intestines and your mind. Most people don't know this, but nearly 90% of serotonin is actually produced in the gut. When your digestion is healthy and your intestinal flora are well fed, your emotional balance improves. Honey acts as a prebiotic, feeding those beneficial bacteria that, in turn, help regulate your entire emotional state. But this goes beyond biology. There is something deeply ritualistic, even sacred, about beginning your day with intention. Taking a spoonful of something you know is good for you sends a message not just to your cells, but to your spirit. I matter. I am worth care. I choose life today. Now, it's a powerful declaration, especially for those who have spent years putting others first, children, spouses, family. You may have forgotten what it feels like to give back to yourself. But this is your moment to remember. To reconnect with the part of you that still hopes, still dreams, still wants to feel alive. Not just to exist, but to glow again from the inside. I once spoke to a widower in his 80s who had grown distant, both emotionally and socially, since losing his wife. A friend suggested he try the garlic and honey ritual, not as a cure, but as an act of care. Within weeks, his energy changed. He began calling his daughter more. He returned to his garden. He smiled. Not because of garlic, not because of honey, but because of what the act represented: hope. So if you find yourself waking without joy or moving without spark, consider this your invitation. Prepare your mixture with attention. Crush the garlic. Let it rest. Mix it slowly with the honey. Take it while sitting in peace. Breathe. Let it enter not just your stomach, but your heart. Because every small choice of care becomes a thread. And over time, those threads weave a new morning, a new version of yourself, one that is lighter, brighter, and unmistakably alive. There's a sacred stillness in the final minutes of morning, when the light has already entered the room, when the body is awake, but the day hasn't yet demanded too much. It's in this space, between rest and responsibility, that we find the greatest opportunity for transformation. Not through effort, not through force, but through a whisper, a gentle, daily decision to care. And for many who have walked the long road of life, who have given so much of themselves to others, this may be the very first time they begin giving back to the one person they've always neglected: themselves. The garlic and honey ritual may sound simple, but its power lies not in its complexity, it lies in its consistency. In choosing day after day to nourish your heart, protect your mind, soothe your joints, and awaken your spirit. And not because anyone told you to, but because you finally remembered something essential. You are still worth the effort. After 3 weeks of this small daily act, the results often begin to unfold like the petals of a flower. Blood pressure softens, breathing deepens, memory sharpens. Energy returns, not as a jolt, but as a steady flame. Digestion flows more easily, sleep comes more gently, and perhaps most importantly, the soul begins to lift. The days no longer feel like a burden, but a blessing. You no longer wake with dread, but with direction. You may look in the mirror and notice nothing has changed, and yet everything has, because inside the wheels are turning. Healing is no longer a distant hope. It's happening now, quietly, faithfully, spoon by spoon, day by day. This is not a miracle. This is you, aligned with what your body was designed to receive. Nature's medicine, God's provision, life supporting life. And if you've come with me all the way to this point, through the science, the stories, the emotions, then I know one thing for certain. You care. You care enough to listen, to learn, to change. Not for vanity, not for approval, but for the sacred responsibility of being alive. So let me ask you, gently but directly, will you carry this into tomorrow? If your heart says yes, if something in your spirit was stirred, then leave a trace of it behind. Comment below. I choose to take better care of myself. Don't write it for me. Write it for you. Let it be the first of many declarations that say, I'm here. I'm not done. I choose life. And please share this video with someone you love. Someone who wakes up tired. Someone who feels forgotten. This simple message may be the invitation they've been waiting for, to believe again in healing, in mornings, in themselves. And if this space felt like home to your heart, subscribe. Not for numbers, but for nourishment. For more messages like this. For a place where age is not decline, but deepening. Where health is not about youth, but about honoring the vessel God still trusts to carry your soul. Now, stay for a moment longer. Let the music embrace you. Close your eyes. Breathe slowly. And thank your body, not for being perfect, but for still being yours. Because every act of care is a seed. And today you planted one. Let it grow.